Hey everybody, what's going on? Rob Cesternino back with you today. And we have such a fun interview here today because we are talking with another big Survivor fan and somebody who has had just an amazing career as a content creator. Of course, you know her from the YouTube series Challenge Accepted, and of course, is a two-time undefeated contestant on Jet Lag. Also,
Yeah.
that she, was the
Spoiler.
host of HBO's Karma, has a big new three-part video coming out, this weekend about going on to the I wanna make sure I get the name right, the Great World Race,
Yeah.
competing in 7 marathons on 7 continents. It's Michelle Khare. Michelle, how are you?
Hey, Rob. Yeah, ring that bell. It is so great to
Yes.
meet you.
Yeah, so nice to talk to you also, and so cool that, you have been following Survivor over these years as you have been very, very busy.
I mean, we all are, but we all make time on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. for Jeff and the crew. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, not everybody does, not everybody does. Michelle, would you create an advantage for Survivor 50, and if so, what would it be?
Oh, the first question. Wow, right out the gate. What advantage would I create? Gosh, that's a hard one to answer because I know people are very, very opinionated of the
Yes.
challenges, like the Billie Eilish boomerang idol from this season. If I were to make an advantage, this isn't an advantage, but I'm a person who does have fondness and nostalgia for the really vast reward challenges, where from the early days where people were going on vacations in the middle
Yes.
of it all. I'm also a person who has fondness for at a certain stage of the game, rather than letters from home, actually getting to see your
The
family.
loved ones, yes.
So yes,
So
seeing the loved ones visit. So
you'd like
I
to
don't know if that
pamper them, give
I
them a
you know
day of luxury with their loved ones.
yes, I have a lot of. I think we forget, we as viewers, because in the newer seasons it's not talked about as much. We often forget they are starving out there. They're out there. You guys are out there for days and days without eating. Um, and so I have a lot of empathy for that because attention, I feel like, doesn't go to the survivor component of it as much as the gameplay component, which makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Michelle, I threw you into the fire right off the
Mhm.
bat, made you come up with an advantage. Okay. But that's the kind of stuff you're used to on Challenge Accepted. Can you tell people who may not know about that, what it is that you've been doing for all this time?
Yeah, so I host a show on YouTube called Challenge Accepted, which is about me trying the world's toughest professions, stunts, and lifestyles. This can range from last year, I became the first person in the world to recreate Tom Cruise's Mission Impossible stunt. So I was hanging off the side of a military aircraft as it was taking off.
Yeah.
I also trained for and learned Harry Houdini's escape called the water torture cell, where I learned how to hold my breath for 3 minutes upside down in a glass box, um, lock picking my way to safety. And it could even mean things as vast and interesting as going to clowning school for a month or joining the
Yes.
Secret
Oh,
Service Academy. So we do it all and we
yeah.
accept all of the challenges.
But you've been so successful. Why do these dangerous things anymore, Michelle? You've made it.
Oh, why do people return to Survivor? For the love of the game, Rob, for the love of the game. You know
Yeah.
exactly what I'm talking about. It's so exciting and such a privilege to get to challenge yourself. And
Oh,
I
that's the
love that.
ethos of Survivor.
Yeah, exactly. So you guys know what I'm talking about. It's addictive, it's exciting, it's fun. And what's cool about Challenge Accepted is we get to highlight a lot of communities that don't get highlighted otherwise or have only seen their stories told in a certain way. So I truly completely transform my lifestyle for days, weeks, months,
Yeah.
sometimes even up to a year to embed in a community and tell its story of a person entering and trying to go from zero to hero. And this year, we're really excited because we are trying to go for a Primetime Emmy in Outstanding Hosted
Wow.
Nonfiction, which is a really, really big goal, specifically for a YouTube channel going up against big studio shows. But challenge accepted. Why not? Let's do it.
Okay. Survivor is always trying to go for an Emmy also. And it's a
I'm
little bit of a
aware in
sore
a different
subject that they
category.
haven't gotten Emmys recently.
Well, I think 50 is quite the contender, and obviously I'm biased as such a fan, but the first episode of season 50, I think, was some of the best reality television hour we've seen in a long time. Period.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
my opinion.
It was 3 hours, the premiere.
Yes, that's true. Multiple hours. Best
Yeah,
episode,
it
I
was
should
it was
say.
a marathon like the Great World Race that you're gonna be
Yeah,
participating in.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, can you just tell me about the Great World Race and what you have coming up? Because I believe a couple of survivors that I know, I think they do this every year, right? And I feel like that I've heard that David Sampson and Sarah Lucina, I think, had done this in the past.
Really? No way, I
Yes.
didn't know that. Yeah, so the new series we have coming out on the channel is the first time to my knowledge that this event has been documented for long form television. It's the story of me attempting 7 consecutive marathons on all 7 continents back to back in one single week. And yes, that includes the Antarctica. This is an event that happens every year. It's called the Great World Race, and about 60 people do it annually. But no one has really captured the story of what happens. It is by far the craziest thing I have ever done. Oftentimes, people ask me, "What's the hardest challenge you've ever faced?" I have a very clear answer, and it is this. So,
Yeah.
this story was just so grand and so exciting that we couldn't contain it to one episode without really doing it justice. So this is the first time it's going to be a multi-part series releasing on the channel starting April 18th, this Saturday. 3 back-to-back episodes chronicling this insane journey. I mean, Rob, this is a journey where you run a marathon, don't shower, you're thrown onto a plane, you wake up and you're in a completely different part of the world and you got to go do it again.
Yeah.
And the type of people that this attracts are the most fascinating people in the world. For example, there is a man named Dan Little who is 83 years old who has done this event 4 times. He's 83 years old and he's out there every day with the biggest smile on his face. He's the last person to cross the finish line every day and he does it. And so what's cool about this is a lot of the episodes are about, my story and maybe a bit of the community around me, but this is really a shared story with many other racers. So in the way that we watch Survivor and see confessionals from all of the players, not even the people who have an A and B plot in a given episode, this 3-part series widens out to other characters and other people attempting this because I think you can look at this and say, yes, this makes for a great piece of television because of the concept. So it makes sense why I'm doing it. But there are people who sign up for this and do it on their paid time off from work. And this is a big dream of theirs. And to me, those stories are even more fascinating. The reasons why people have been drawn to this race are incredible. I mean, the stories are top notch. So we're so excited about this coming out this weekend, and it'll be a part of our Emmy submission.
Yeah. So, were you a runner prior to this, or did you start running to get ready to do all these marathons?
So in my athletic history, I have run 2 marathons. I ran LA Marathon in like 2017, and I ran 50K in Death Valley. Both of those are very challenging, but they are nothing compared to running 7 back to back.
Yeah.
How do you train for an event like that? Is it physically possible? How do you recover? And how do you recover on a plane without being able to shower or eat all the food you need or have a perfect environment? I think what's really fascinating about this experience is a lot of the limits that we set on ourselves are self-imposed. And that really got tested for me during this
Yeah.
challenge.
Yeah. Again, that's Survivor also in a nutshell
Yes.
of, that you go out there to learn about yourself and you go out there seeking something and you find out that what you were searching for all along was inside of you.
Mm. Do you think that every player has that experience, no matter
No.
the length of time they're on the show? No.
No,
No.
that's not the case. They'll tell you that's the case, but I talked to a lot of them and that was not the case. But for
Ooh.
some of them, I think it was. And I'm sure for
Okay.
all the people doing the race, I'm sure that that's the case because I feel like that it's not necessarily about winning the experience. Like there's 60 people do it, but there's not 59 losers. They're like okay, maybe one person had the best times, the overall, but the other 59 people aren't feeling like I was this close to winning.
Not for an event like this. Maybe
Yeah,
for a 5K,
there's a
10K half.
camaraderie, I bet.
Exactly. Really, for an event like the Great World Race, it's an accomplishment to cross that seventh finish line.
Yeah,
It is a win. It is a life milestone just to get it done. Because even this race destroys even the most elite athletes. Like there are people who are world class runners who come out and do it and drop out at marathon 5 or 6 because they haven't paced themselves appropriately or an injury pops up. Like this race is so unpredictable. And I think a good example of that is historically the race always starts in Antarctica because, first of all, it's the hardest one for many. It's literally Antarctica. You're
hmm
running in the snow, carrying all of this gear to keep you warm. You want to do it on your freshest legs. Also, there's a huge weather component to Antarctica. You don't want to go and run Antarctica and then be stuck there for 3 days and it ruins your attempt to get 7 in 7 days. So it has to be first. And without spoiling anything, basically what happens is we go to Cape Town, South Africa, where where all the racers gather to go to Antarctica. And the night before we fly to Antarctica, they send an email out at like 9 p.m. that says, weather is changing. We're starting in Africa. So you have to be ready to pivot. Everyone has mentally prepared. First race is going to be in Antarctica. I'm going to have all my winter gear, I have everything prepped. I personally even trained in a cold storage freezer to prepare for this. Like all of the training of the 7 months led to Antarctica first. And you have to be ready to pivot. Okay, I guess we're running in Africa now.
yeah.
You have to be ready for anything.
Yeah. Be like, you're getting ready to go to Survivor. Okay, I'm going to Fiji. It's like, plot twist, we're going to Alaska.
Exactly. Which I wouldn't put past Jeff or any of the producers
No, they're
to
locked in. They're going to stay in Fiji for a while. I'd be real surprised. That'd be a real curveball.
Yeah.
But Michelle, I'd love to know how did you first find Survivor? Are you a lifer?
Oh my gosh. Am I a lifer? So my husband is
Yes.
a Garrett. He is a massive reality head. So he is a lifer. Like he has seen every season since one. And when we got together, like 7 or 8 years ago, it was one
Uh-huh.
of the first things that we did. So I guess I'm newer to Survivor in the past 7 or 8 years, but during that time, my God, have I seen a lot. And he started me way back. We started with everything. We started with Amazon All Stars, Pearl Islands, all the
Wow.
classics, and of course now we watch regularly since we got together. It's a part of our date night routine. But I think of Jeff Probst when I think of like who are the people I look up to as producers and hosts and performers. It's three people. It's David Blaine, Evil Knievel, Jeff Probst. Period.
Wow.
I think, and I know people are divided on some of those individuals potentially, but I think what Jeff has done with the show, it's on season 50. It is one of the longest running shows on television, period. It has gone through a roller coaster of reviews, of feedback, of viewership. His commitment to always coming back to it is really admirable. And I think having hosted Challenge Accepted and hosted Karma, understanding intimately what it's like to sit at Video Village with a binder of all the contestants, furiously memorizing everything about them on note cards while watching all of the video feeds, taking notes so that when you go to speak to the contestants, you know exactly what questions to ask to not push too hard, but to get them to open up. That is a craft of
Yeah.
interviewing that is not taught in any acting school or like performance art. You have to do it to know it. And he's the best at it, period.
Is there anything that you notice that Jeff does that maybe doesn't get talked about that maybe we don't appreciate that you see that he's doing that you're impressed by?
Something I'm real. There are so many things that I'm impressed by Jeff. First of all, I think something that's really undervalued is his challenge commentary. When I was hosting Karma, that was actually something
Which can I
that
just set up what karma is in
yeah.
just in case anybody. So karma, and please correct me if I'm wrong,
Mhm.
was on in 2020 was on HBO. I'm not sure if it was Max then.
I think it's gone through so many
So
iterations.
many
I think it was
changes, but
HBO
whatever
Max.
the artist formerly known as HBO, maybe
Yeah.
again. It was a show that was a survivor-like game for young teens competed.
It was 18 teenagers in the wilderness paired into teams of two, doing challenges and competing in social strategy for a cash prize fund, which was so fascinating because, in the way that we love and appreciate not only MasterChef, but MasterChef Junior,
Mhm.
seeing young people in an environment like this, for many of them, it was their first time away from their parents. For many of them, they had never been away from a screen for longer than 24 hours in their life.
Yeah.
Um, and seeing them come into young adulthood through the course of this summer was insane and incredible. And like, kids are just so wonderful and fun and honest in ways that I think adults are scared to be. That it was incredible. But having hosted that show, I understand what it's like to have to pull those history moments from the contestants, to be so intimately aware with plot A line A, B, C, D, E, and have to resolve all of them without knowing which one is going to get used in the edit. Um, but to answer your question about things that I can empathetically be impressed by for Jeff Probst, it's challenge commentary. And I think that's really underappreciated because we watch sports. We hear people commentate on sports. And I don't think people realize how challenging it is to not sound insane while you're doing it, because you're calling out things that are very obvious to everyone in person, but may not be to the viewer at home. And so, at least on Karma, I was calling out a lot of things that would often get cut, things that are very, very obvious. So you're just standing there yelling at the top of your lungs without trying to sound annoying and be thoughtful. And I think Jeff does it really elegantly in a way that never shames any of the contestants,
Yeah.
but keeps things honest to what's going on.
And it's
Another
it
thing that I think he does really
oh,
well is,
can I,
oh yeah,
add to that? Because I think that it's interesting because, he didn't start doing it in the beginning of the show. He sort of like that was an evolution after the first couple
yeah,
seasons, and I'm not sure if there's, like, ever been you have sports broadcasters who are talking about the game, but the players don't hear that. That's not
hmm
necessarily like when you are going to like a baseball game, like the person who's calling the game for people at home, that isn't piped into the stadium. And
hmm
so it's interesting. Like, I don't know if there's anything else that I could think of that was before that where somebody is commentating on what's happening in front of the people, like where the people are also hearing like what's being
yes.
described and narrated.
That's true. Because for reality competition commentary, you are playing to two audiences: the audience of millions of people at home who are trying to understand the tension of the game. And your role as a host is to raise those stakes constantly. But then also, as we see in Survivor, that out loud commentary impacts the contestants and how they feel as they're going through this. So,
Mhm.
we've seen time and time again when someone's stuck on a puzzle and they hear Jeff call it out, how that impacts the player. And I think he does it really, really delicately well. Also, I mean, his tribal council is masterful. And the fact, like, Meadow, we know Jeff knows all the drama. We know he's heard it from a producer, or he himself is sitting at MCR, getting everything on video feed. He's very well prepared going into Tribal, but he does a really great job of being a fan in Tribal Council. He's asking the questions the audience wants to know, with the right amount of respect for the game and understanding of the history of the game. Additionally, I think how he pulls out memories from like 20 years ago. Oh, this reminds me of the Tribal Council on Amazon or something. Like, that is nuts. I mean, his memory is wonderful, whether he prepares for it or just has it. I think is really impressive. Also,
Michelle,
his
tell me
impressions
about.
of the players.
Yes, you like that when he did the impressions.
I thought it was fun.
Yeah. Um,
Maybe not
Michelle,
everyone. Are you alluding that not everyone likes that?
I think that that really went over a lot better than when he rapped.
Yeah. Sure. That was
That
unexpected.
that was unexpected. Yes. Could you rap better than Jeff? Do you think?
I don't think anyone wants to hear me rap. I'm gonna put
If you,
that there. Um, yeah, if Jeff ever is looking for a host for another
yeah.
show, I would love to audition. But if rapping is part of the expectation, I might fall a little farther down in that select
Who would
audition
win a
pile.
battle rap between you and Jeff? Do you think you could take
Jeff,
Jeff in a battle rap?
I don't think I could. Everyone listening right now can hear my voice. This is not a rap voice. I feel like you need a low tone voice to be effective as a rapper, even as
Hmm.
a female rapper.
Hmm.
That doesn't exist in my. I would need to work on it. Challenge accepted. I'm gonna have to do a rap episode. I don't think anyone would watch it, but I would have to formally
You
train
never
to do
know.
that.
Yeah. Michelle, can you tell me about some of your favorite players from Survivor history, whether they're on Survivor 50 or not?
Mm. Some of my favorite players, well, a lot of my favorite players are on 50. So I think within 50, the people I'm enjoying watching play the most are Rizo and Cirie, Christian. I loved watching D. I think D, as we all know, is one of the best players of the new era.
Hmm.
Um, so those I think are the people that stand out to me. Also, I've really enjoyed watching Ozzy a lot.
Yeah.
Um, it's interesting to see somebody who has played the game so many times. Um, and in many ways, I'm overgeneralizing here, of course, but Ozzy has always sort of landed in the same fate, the same sort of story arc. And it's neat to see that this season he has grown a lot, and I really enjoy that, and I feel like we're kind of entering an opportunity to see the Aussie we've always wanted to see. Um, so I love seeing him be self-aware of his faults from prior seasons and actually attempt to make change. That's a really cool.
Are you and Garrett on the same page about all your favorite Survivor players? Do you have any disagreements in your house in terms of some of the favorites?
Oh my gosh, we don't have survivor arguments if that's the question. We're pretty aligned, honestly.
Yeah.
we both love Cirie.
Yes. Okay. Well, sorry. Easy to love. Do you feel like that Survivor 50 could be the season that Cirie brings it home?
Gosh, it's really hard to know. It really is. I would love for it to be. I mean, watching her on Traders was very exciting to see her get a win. Um, I feel like right now we're seeing Cirie in like CIA mode. She has not come out of hiding yet. She is doing everything so well. And what I love about her play is she's a very um, tempered and constrained player when she needs to be. She's always, she always knows when she needs to fade into the back and
Mhm.
then step into the light. And so we haven't seen her step into the light yet.
Yeah.
This is like Cirie on 5%, I think, right now.
Yeah, but she's done a really good job of. I kind of thought that people would be a little more worried about her in this season, and it really doesn't feel like there's a lot of people talking about her. The couple people that were are gone.
Exactly. She has really excellently faded into the background. She's like that Homer Simpson gif when he just
Yeah.
goes back into the bush. Like we'll go through several minutes of runtime in an episode. And I'm like, oh yeah, Cirie is here. What's going on? And she, yeah, I think she's aligned herself very well with Rizo, which I think is really impressive for someone who hasn't seen 49. Again, a thing I think meta wise we forget is that nobody has actually seen Rizo play before.
Yeah.
And very interesting and fun. I just think they're a hilarious duo together, and they're doing a great job.
Yeah, you mentioned Rizzo as one of your favorites who's here in Survivor 50, and he's come on
Mhm.
the scene and made a real impression. What do you like so much about the Riz God?
Rizgod. What I really love, I mean, a lot of my love for him comes from his performance in 49.
Yeah.
I think he's a great player, period. But what makes him so fun to watch is he's a fantastic on-camera reality star. He knows how to navigate a confessional. Whether or not he's thinking about it, he's very good at making a confessional not just a moment to progress plot, but to be a GIF, to be a meme. He is thinking in ways that are extremely memorable for the game. I mean, examples like he's referencing Bad Blood by Taylor Swift when he's talking about taking out Charlie. That is really, really smart, not just as a player, but as someone who understands reality TV. And I think the best players, the best hosts have a little bit of that producerial understanding of what's going to make an edit. And that's why he's gotten, in my opinion, so much runtime and why he is so memorable.
Are you surprised, though, Michelle, that the Swifties didn't turn on him after he was talking about Bad Blood and went after Charlie?
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if he got a few DMs from Swifties. However, as someone who is a fan of Taylor Swift myself,
Yes.
I appreciated the reference and I thought it was respectfully done.
Even though that he was weaponizing Taylor Swift to hurt Charlie, who was the bigger Taylor Swift fan.
I think he was speaking the language of the community personally.
He knew enough. Yes. So that's fine. So our research team here at Rob's podcast, they gave me a list of Survivor players on Instagram that you follow, and it's a notable list. And I wanted to, have you had any interesting experiences on social media interacting with any of the Survivor alumni?
Gosh, have I don't think anything. I don't remember, honestly. I mean, I follow people, I engage with their posts, I comment on their posts, whether or not people see me doing my thing. And you know, I respect the relationship we have, me being a fan, I suppose.
Yes.
Did you find something that I might not remember?
No. This is not a hit piece. This isn't 60 Minutes. We're not here to say like, well, you said this to Adam Klein. But I just
I've met Adam in person.
Yes. What was that like?
Oh, it was great. Yeah, he was in LA, and I just met up with him. He's really nice.
Yeah. The nicest. And do any of them ever reach back out to you and say, hey, oh my God, Michelle Khare, I didn't know you liked Survivor?
I don't think so.
Yeah. A lot of them are in their own bubble.
Sure. Yeah. I don't expect it. I guess this is me saying, if you're a Survivor player, I'm available to hang out. No, I haven't had any like super notable interactions with anybody, though I have met Jeff Probst over FaceTime once, which was very fun.
First off, that your husband is the lifetime Survivor fan. Yeah. How did he react to you getting the chance to talk to Jeff?
Oh, he was there. It was amazing.
Wow.
It was really, really fun. Basically, we were at a meeting with someone who is a mutual friend of Jeff's, and we were just sort of talking about everything, and they're like, let me just FaceTime Jeff and see if he'll answer. And I was like, listen, I need about 2 to 3 business days notice before I speak to Jeff Probst myself.
And he picked up.
He picked up. He was in the middle of recording the podcast, and I think he stepped outside, which was so generous of him. He's such a nice person to answer for this friend of his. And we got to talk because he had seen some of the channel. He had seen some of Challenge Accepted, which was really, really cool. And he was like, why don't you apply to be on Survivor? So that was very exciting.
Yes. Would you ever consider being on Survivor? You've done so many other challenges.
You know, I think it's a maybe someday type of answer for me. As somebody who understands the behind the scenes of reality television, both for Challenge Accepted as well as Karma, I understand. I think I understand both sides of it as a contestant and as a host producer. I think I would really, really enjoy the challenges. I think where I would struggle, Rob, and I would actually need you to give me a crash course, is the component. I'm a very emotionally vulnerable person, and which is shown on my channel all the time. At the same time, I do get to have creative edit over what we show online.
Sure.
Giving that up when I'm starving, haven't slept, is a little scary for me. However, I as I do accept challenges, I do think it would be an incredible growth opportunity. So, what do you think, Rob? What do you think I need to improve on if I were to go on Survivor?
I think maybe you might be too threatening. I think you need to people
Oh
might look at you
my
and say
God.
you're too polished.
Too
Like, well, that
polished?
you've too big of a threat.
In what capacity? Because like when I see people like you and Cirie play, I'm
Mhm.
like, when you guys like the way that you socially handle situations, I find is very impressive. That is the part where I would be nervous um to take action in leadership, and I'm the person who would be taking everything personally.
Right.
If I hear my name, I would just start crying. Like, I'm going to be so real with you, Rob. So I would need to work on all of that. But as a threatening player yourself, how do you, Cirie Homer Simpson yourself into the bush?
Well,
Give me some
Cerie's I bet
tips.
I'm a threatening person, then they just get rid of me. That's really, my lot in life. So I don't know how to do the Cerie blend into the bushes thing.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay,
Only she
well,
could do that.
maybe Cirie, maybe we'll follow each other on Instagram, and I can ask
Yeah.
her for a boot camp. If I'm ever luckily selected to go on Survivor, I can call up Cirie. She can give me some
Yes.
pointers.
Yes. Well, I was just thinking also with, in Hollywood, if this merger goes through with Warner and Paramount, that maybe they could just call it Survivor Junior now and maybe bring it back.
Listen, if a Survivor Junior emerged and they were seeking a host, this is me
Mhm.
publicly saying I would love the opportunity to audition for it. I think it would bang. I think it would
Yeah,
be incredible. Though obviously things would have to be different with kids. They
sure.
would have to be fed 3 times a day for sure.
Mhm.
But I think there is so much to explore. Um, and kids just have such a fascinating perspective on the world. And I think when we look at the marketplace of docu-reality TV, there's a real opening right now for kid teen contestant content. And when
Sure.
we're talking about reinvigorating television for Gen Z, Gen Alpha, just like the business person in me thinks it's a really cool opportunity for story and for hitting a new audience.
Yeah. Michelle, could you tell me more about Karma? Because I did not catch it when it was on. I listened. It was 2020, right? It was a weird time. God knows what I was doing at that point in time. Maybe Tiger King. Who knows? But could you just talk about like so you had young people and they were playing a game outdoors, but that you fed
Mhm.
them all the
They were
time.
fed.
They were fed. And how long did the game last?
Gosh, I think from talent arriving on set to the final winner winning was about 3 or 4 weeks.
Wow. That's
So
longer than
the
Survivor now.
the kids who ended up winning, I mean, they were away from their family for about a month.
Yeah.
And they were very, it was really impressive to see them work through those hardships.
Yeah. Did it get cutthroat or the kids, they were all supportive of each other?
Oh gosh, I mean, any competitive environment and with the right
Mhm.
casting brings out the right people. So I don't want to give away anything, even though the show is well
Yes.
over. But I think the kids that ended up doing really well were fans of the genre and had studied. They were ready. One
Yes.
of one of the competitors named Jack was a chess champion, and you could directly see how that applied to the game. I know,
Yeah.
like sometimes when we're watching Survivor, you hear somebody has a certain profession and it doesn't necessarily manifest in the edit how it impacts their game. I would say that it was pretty incredible to see these kids' extracurricular backgrounds come into play with how they handled things.
And none of them have gone on to be Survivor players yet, right?
Not to my knowledge. I think at this point, most of them are just starting college now. So
Mhm.
I guess on Survivor you can go at that age, but to my knowledge, none of them have.
They're not disqualified from ever being on Survivor though, right?
I don't think they should be. I mean, some
I
of
think
them would be
Jonathan
fantastic.
was on there was a show called Endurance, which
Hmm.
was, a young person survivor way back when, and he
Yes.
went from
So
that show to
endurance.
now yeah.
That's amazing because Endurance was produced by JD Roth, who
Yes.
is another just huge heavy hitter in the reality space. He has, his mind has come up with some of the greatest reality shows of all time. He was the executive producer of Karma.
Yeah.
So I think that was one of the coolest things about that show was the show was amazing.
Jonathan calls him Mr. JD.
Yeah, Mr. JD, he's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with him. Shout out JD Roth.
Yeah.
Just an amazing, extremely intelligent, and underappreciated person. I think he deserves all of his flowers. But the coolest part of working on Karma, the location, the show being on HBO, that was awesome. But being a mentee of JD's changed my life. I mean, he really took me to host and producer boot camp. And you can see in my own channel, even my content, a huge shift in how I hosted it and produced before and after Karma. The way that I understand exactly how to prepare before meeting somebody on camera, before interviewing anyone, even though I'm the contestant of my own show on Challenge
Mhm.
Accepted. um, I have a far deeper preparation methodology. And again, this is nothing they teach in school. I mean, he taught me so much about it. And again, I would add that to my resume as for Survivor Junior host if they're looking.
Yes. So, going back to Challenge Accepted, what gave you the original idea to start this as a YouTube channel?
So, I before I did Challenge Accepted was living this Hannah Montana lifestyle where during the day I was a video producer for another YouTube channel, just a producer. And then at night and on the weekends, I was a professional cyclist. So I was
Wow.
making internet videos during the day. And at night and on the weekends, I was flying somewhere in the world, racing 100 miles, and then flying right back and restarting my week. It got to this point where I felt like I could combine these two loves. And eventually I got to a point where I decided to leave my job and take a bet on the channel. But it took about a year of experimentation on the channel for us to arrive on Challenge Accepted as the format and the show name. Um, but it came out of this space of unscripted was having a renaissance, not just on traditional TV, but online, specifically on YouTube. And there are plenty of shows out there where a comedian or an actor or a public figure tries a job for a day. I'm going to use that as sort of like a blanket term. And I wanted to ask the question, well, what would happen if someone fully committed their life to trying to learn this thing, getting the best coaches in the world, really? And I truly do this. Like my 9 to 5 schedule is completely different based on what I'm training for. And to ask the question, could a person go from zero to hero with the best people in the world helping them? Um, and what's been interesting about the show is that because I'm literally transforming my life for months at a time, it's created this moat of nobody else is crazy to do this.
Mhm.
And so what's been special about that is the thing that was very hard in the beginning became the thing that made it special and unique. And that's how we actually choose episodes of Challenge Accepted. If it sounds so outrageous, how could we even do that? I know there's something there that is deserving of exploration.
Was there one episode that you did that really was where the dam broke, where it really put you on the map?
I have a lot of friends who are content creators who can name, this was the video I uploaded and the next day my whole
Mhm.
life was changed and I had millions of followers. That was not actually my
Yeah.
experience, even though it would make for a better story. Mine has always been long, slow, steady. And that's just out of necessity because the episodes take so long to make. I mean, some of these have a lead time of a year on them, which is rare for content creation online. And what that creates is a situation where we're slowly, constantly evolving and pivoting with each episode. So there hasn't been a single standout, but there have definitely been moments. For example, when we became, I think, the first YouTube channel to collaborate with the Secret Service. They allowed me to embed at their academy and experience what it's like to protect the president of the United States. That was a big, milestone for our channel, not only because it performed well, but because on a production studio capacity, we showed, hey, this hasn't even been covered by traditional TV. And there's a high barrier to entry. I mean, I was on the phone, sending emails, convincing the Secret Service, the FBI, all of these organizations to collaborate with us. And so I think people appreciate that there is high production value, but it's grassroots effort. For
Mhm.
example, when I did the Mission Impossible stunt last year, where I'm hanging off the side of a plane as it's taking off, that started with me just tweeting a picture from the frame of Mission Impossible where the stunt is happening, asking, does anyone have access to this plane? A lot of our episodes start with me just throwing something into the ether. Um, and then it escalates beyond there. And of course, we have an amazing crew to bring it together. But those initial steps have always come from a place of absurdity and putting yourself out there vulnerably.
Yeah. I'm so interested to know, like, then what scares you to not do? Is there anything that you, considered and then walked back, like, looked over the ledge, like, "No, no, no, I can't do that."
Well, what's interesting and this is definitely a part of the show is I'm actually a really anxious person. I am not the stoic daredevil. Like when you think of David Blaine, you think of this monolith of a person who can just do anything. And I think maybe some people view the show that way, but genuinely, I created this show because I wrote all of my fears on a whiteboard and connected each fear to a circumstance that would push me to address it. And that is the birth of the show was me as a person who had always been on a life path predetermined and pre-carved of go to school, get the good grades, get into a good college, go into a profession that thousands of people before me have proved is a high earning position, whatever it is.
Mhm.
This was a departure from that for me to uncover a part of myself and hopefully help other people who struggle with the same fears to really attack it head on. And what's interesting about fear is that I've learned, because I think some people might ask, like, well, after doing 60 episodes, can't you just be brave? And I think the truth is, as we grow and evolve as people, new fears emerge. And also, I'm a person who
Oh,
believes
no.
fear never actually goes away. Like, I think fear is always there, no matter how, you just get better at knowing how to manage it and when it appears, how to respond. So I've definitely improved at that. Like, I know when I go into a challenge, for example, I know that week 3 and 4 are always going to be miserable, whatever I'm training for. The first weeks, you have this beginner's mindset, you have the joy of I'm learning something new. But weeks 3 and 4 is where it always gets hard. I just know that every time. And I know how to manage that. I know how to prepare for that. Um, and it also comes into situations like with running 7 marathons. My producerial hat thinks about, okay, I'm going to plan all my outfits ahead of time. So that's not, I'm not thinking about what's in my luggage. I just grab the bag for Antarctica and go. So I think you learn how to mitigate fear, but it never goes away. And that's what I think has been the well that I continue to be drawn to from the show.
Do you have advice for people who are facing fear? Is it just confront it and go into it, or are there more practical steps that you can take to deal with a fear?
I think approaching a fear without a plan and just jumping in sometimes works, but oftentimes can actually be reckless. So I'm a planned fear addresser. For example, when I left my job to start my channel, that was a year-long process of me thinking about all of the fears that I had associated with it. I started saving money. I moved into a studio apartment with a roommate. I created a circumstance to train myself for if I was totally failing and ran out of money, what would my lifestyle be and how would I overcome that? So I recommend Tim Ferriss's fear setting exercise, which I think, have you heard of this by chance, Rob?
I know Tim Ferriss. I don't know the fear setting exercise.
Okay. So if this was really transformative for me when I go into some of my bigger challenges. He asks you to define the fear, imag- define, prevent, and repair. So what that means is you define the fear, you force yourself to think through if this fear actually comes true, how would I repair afterwards? And also, what can I do to prevent it from happening? It's a very simple framework. But that's really helpful to me. But I think you actually need to think deeply about the fear and is it warranted? Is it not? A very simple example of this is the plane stunt from last year. There are many fears associated with it strapping yourself to the side of the plane, but I knew to mitigate some of that, I would need to do the appropriate training. So we designed this insane training plan where I am in a wind tunnel, preparing what it feels like to have that type of pressure on my body so I don't hyperventilate on the side of the plane. We got custom contact lenses made to protect my eyes from debris. So I think looking at fear very directly
Mhm.
actually gives you answers to how to become brave.
Michelle, I want to get your take on where we're at in Survivor 50 right now and hear some of your reactions to the season. This was a big week with Coach, and I'd love
Yeah.
to know your opinions on Coach as a player over the course of his career and where he's at right now in the game.
Gosh, and I know you guys have already discussed this on the podcast. This idea of Coach having a little bit of a breaking point this
Yeah.
past week. It's so interesting and fun to watch players for whom we have such storied pasts. We think of Coach not just as the Coach we're seeing in 50, but all of the seasons prior. And that's really, really fun. And I think the best way I can explain it is the dichotomy we're seeing between Coach and Ozzy, which what we were talking about before, in some way. And of course, the edit can assist in this perception, but what we're seeing with Coach is almost a little bit of a repeat of history. Whereas with Ozzy, we see him transforming into a character we may have not seen before. It's yet to be seen, but I have faith. And seeing those storylines progress adjacent and parallel with one another is fascinating. But I think, as you guys discussed, this idea of 14 people on a beach trying to come to a consensus it's like herding cats when
Mhm.
everyone is very vocal and information is so fluid on this season. Nobody's really keeping secrets. And so I think this idea of um, honesty and integrity is an old era type of mindset that I don't think is necessarily working on these evolved players, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
But what's your opinion on Coach in terms of like I think it's like the age old question of is he losing it? Is he, sly like a fox that he is putting on this persona to ultimately get what he wants? Do you have a read on Coach just as a player and what he's trying to accomplish right now?
Well, I'm not a psychiatrist, but what we're dealing with is multi-layered
Yeah.
analysis. We're dealing with players that are extremely aware of the edit, of the cameras, of the producers. And so I think as viewers, as fans of the show, it's something interesting that we should keep in mind as we are interpreting their performances. Like we were discussing earlier, these are players who are extremely seasoned in confessionals. They know how to say a line, if they're a great performer, how to get it in the edit. And so it's hard for me, at least watching, to know how to divorce those characteristics between what is the real person, what is the person the edit and the producers are presenting it to us, and what is the characterization of themselves that they are putting on.
Yeah.
So that's my
And
assessment.
that's the type of scrutiny you wouldn't necessarily want to succumb to as a Survivor contestant?
Of course. Are you kidding, Rob? Gosh, I mean, I watch all of this
But
stuff.
this
You
is my
see,
favorite part of it. I love to get to, like, really, like, especially with these returning players, it's so fun for me to say, let's sort of be like, "Hey, we really know these people." Like, is it
oh, it's
like, aren't these
amazing.
characters so rich?
Oh, of course. And that's why it's really fun to watch. But to be the person, as you know, to be the person on the Rob Has a Podcast Patreon that everyone is talking about, the Reddit, everything. And I receive some of that, of course, from the audience that we have from Challenge Accepted. People are opinionated when they're fans of something. And I think that's what makes for a great fandom.
Mhm.
But it is scary.
Yeah.
This is me
I
admitting
do
a fear
think
I have.
Yeah. I do think that Coach likes not letting you know. Like, I think part of
Oh,
him, I think he enjoys like, being the person who is a little mysterious and talked about.
yeah, and I think that's part of his characterization, the Dragon Slayer that we have seen over all of these years. Um, it's hard because Coach has stuck the landing in some ways with this tactic previously. I don't. It didn't work last week. We'll see
Yeah.
how he adjusts moving
Yeah.
next forward.
Coach has given out some nicknames this season and in the past. Do you have any cool
Mhm.
nicknames, Michelle?
Do I have any cool nicknames?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I don't. Some people call me MK. that's not
Yeah.
that's not the type of nickname like a Dragon
Yeah. How
Slayer
did they come
or
up with that?
that's just my initials.
No, I know. I got
But maybe if I'm fortunate enough to play on Survivor in the future, I can
Yeah.
ask Coach for a nickname. But again,
Yes.
like this is me being too meta, Rob, but as a person on both sides of the production of a reality show, I would know that using nicknames, that's a good sign for the edit. It helps the audience understand who is a part of the alliance. Naming things, it's memorable, it's interesting. We're having a conversation about it right now. If we just saw that Coach is aligned with these four people and there's not a branding to it, he's literally using branding and marketing as a part of that. Whether or not
Uh-huh.
he's aware, it helps get in the edit. But like, I think I'm too like meta in all of it.
No, that's a really good point in terms of these returning players. Name your alliance, give out nicknames. All these things are good in the battle for
Mhm.
airtime with 24 players.
Yeah, it's interesting. So yeah, it's hard to know if Coach's big swing is for performance or for playing. Obviously, he wants to stay in the game. So,
Mhm.
and then of course you question what of the hundreds of hours of footage are we missing for context in any of this?
Sure. Sure. Now, I know that one of the other people that you are following on Instagram is Christian. I feel like that
I love
you
Christian.
Yeah, I get that. I feel like as somebody who and Christian is also somebody who I think is very interested in a wide variety of things. I can definitely see the overlap where you would be a fan of somebody like Christian.
Well, Christian won my heart when he won immunity in his original season, clinging on to that pole against a challenge beast. I think he's always just been really endearing to watch, and he's been a bit of a star of this season. He's gotten a lot of airtime. He's done some crazy stuff. I mean, he he shit himself. So I
He
feel
did. Yes.
That's
Wasn't
insane.
expecting
I
that to be where you went, but yeah, he did do that.
know. Yeah, I
Challenge
love
accepted.
yeah. No, I'm curious what what context we may have been missing in his decision to choose Emily over Mike was interesting to me.
Yeah.
Um but I'm excited to see how he does with Rick in the merge.
Yeah. Do you think that this fake idol is going to come into play? Do you think that at some point that that's going to pop up?
I'll just say, kind of as a blanket thing, that idol usage throughout the season has somewhat perplexed me. This this fake idol is so crazy. Will it come back? They keep playing it in the edit and
Yeah.
reminding us it's there. So if it doesn't come back, I'll be disappointed for sure. The fact that it hasn't been a conversation yet, I think, is just a sign of how secure Rick and Christian might feel currently. They probably haven't included that, like, discussions in the edit of them talking about, should we make a scene with the fake idol tonight? Because I don't think they're in a position where they need to start worrying about that quite yet. But I really hope it comes back, because with the Billie Eilish boomerang idol, for example, conceptually, I think it's really interesting. It's such
Yeah.
an interesting psychological experiment to feign allegiance with someone and then have the opportunity to stab them in the back later. Conceptually, I think it's really interesting, but nobody has used it for that purpose. I mean, Audrey used her idol last week, which I thought was also surprising. So I I don't.
Yeah.
It's hard to understand, I think.
Yeah, with all due respect to Billie Eilish, who I hear is great. Yeah, there's no way that we could get the intended boomerang purpose because Genevieve, who found two of them, is gone, and then
Yeah.
Aubrey has flushed her own. So there's no way that any of these idols can boomerang back.
Right, unless they come back into play and it
Oh
all
my
starts
god.
over again. But
Do you think that that will be the case? Do you think there's more Billie Eilish boomerang idols?
maybe if I were production, I would be thinking, if we had planned more at the merge phase, we need to pivot
Yeah,
potentially into
pivot.
just normal idols,
Normal idols,
normal
please.
idols,
Yeah.
because because information is so fluid on this season. There could have been a world where it was truly under wraps and a complete secret, but because maybe that would have happened if there was only one Billie Eilish boomerang idol, but because there are
Yeah.
so many and the information is so available, that I don't think it's going to work, and we may have another situation where people feel pressure to flush it just to get it out of the game.
Yeah, I think also it seems like that sort of the currency of the culture of the season has been I'm going to share information where I think that there's a lot of mistrust between people. Can I trust you? Okay, we were cool on the outside, but like, what are you giving me here? Q had a line earlier in the season where he said, like, hey, if you're gonna come to my house, you better bring something for me to eat. And I think that that's sort of been the mentality of almost all of the players are like, hey, you want to work together? Like, you got to give me some information. That's like the price of doing business. So everybody is like very quick to share any sort of secret, especially Emily. We've seen do this the most of, well, I won't tell you my secret, but let me tell you everybody else's secrets that I know. And it's helped her be able to foster good relationships. I just think it's been a very like oversharey season.
It really has been, for better or for worse. Trust is currency through information. So
Yeah.
I do wish there were more secrets, though. I like when a group of people, when an alliance is able to keep something under wraps and then, fire the bullet
Yeah.
when nobody's expecting it. That's fun to watch.
I suspect, and this is usually the time in the season where it happens, that there will be now Aubrey played her Billie Eilish boomerang idol. There'll be a normal idol hidden back at camp. Somebody will find it, and that will be like the one big secret that is out there and that nobody will know. And then we'll have like a big moment where somebody plays an idol at an unpredicted moment where we get like a big reaction out of that, where That's the one thing that'll be secret, I hope.
Me too.
Yeah. Tell me, Tiffany has been in a bad spot now for a couple of weeks coming out of that she was with Camilla, who got blindsided, and now she's firmly at the bottom. Do you think that Tiffany can turn it around?
Gosh, especially, after last tribal with D. Gosh, I think Tiffany has a lot of work ahead of her in order to turn it around. I'm very eager to see what she does. And I know that there have been critiques of the show this season that she hasn't
Yeah.
gotten much airtime. Unclear, again, understanding both ends of it, if that's because she's not doing anything or if it's because it's just not making the edits not as interesting as other stuff going on. I'm not sure. So I think because we haven't seen enough of Tiffany's strategy or gameplay, if it's happening, it's hard for me to know, okay, Tiffany can really like rise to the top based on something that happened in episode 2. We don't
Yeah.
really have much information.
But she has the last couple of episodes really gotten a lot of airtime. So
That's
I
true.
think that in the case of Tiffany, I just feel like that she's somebody that her story, for whatever they're going to show as her story, like didn't really start until she was sort of like at the bottom. And hopefully it's
Mhm.
like the start of a comeback story. But in a big cast, I think that she did get lost in the beginning of the season. But she's here now, which I
She
appreciate.
is. Yeah,
She's
and
here
I
now.
feel like we're getting teed up that this episode will be Tiffany heavy. Whether or not she
Mhm.
moves from the bottom to elsewhere,
Yeah.
we have to see how she navigates this either way.
Well, I think she's in an interesting spot where that this is really set up now with 13 people. Everybody's thinking, okay, Tiffany's on the bottom. Tiffany's on the bottom. Great, great, great. Okay, easy vote here. And just when you think it's going to be an easy vote, that really sets the table for somebody to be able to use Tiffany as a smokescreen and do
Yeah,
something else interesting.
I completely agree with you because um, there's, as we know, a difference between easy vote versus strategic play.
Is there one person from everybody that we've lost so far that you really were the most sad to lose in the first half of the season?
Oh, of course, Kyle. I was
Kyle.
really, really excited to see Kyle play. Kyle and Dee, both of them. I mean, they're both favorites of the fans, favorites of me. I was looking forward to a Kyle and Camilla something at the merge. I was looking forward to Dee just being amazing Dee. So I think I'm sad about all like
The
in a season
winners,
with
you love the winners.
well, I, I must admit bias because those are the people we spend the most time with.
Mhm.
So I thought they were fantastic, and I think it's exciting to see when someone you come into a returning season as a winner, you only have something to lose in a way.
Yeah. Now,
Uh, so I think that puts a lot of stakes on them and makes them interesting to see how to navigate. I would have loved to see Kyle. I was disappointed Kyle was medevaced. If he had been voted
it was
out
sad.
fairly, sure.
Yeah.
But a medevac I think is just unfortunate for everyone.
Now, do you relate to the winners as a winner of jet lag, a two-time winner of jet lag?
Well, I didn't get $1 million for winning jet lag twice, but um, I but jet lag was fantastic. I loved competing on jet lag. Though it's a tough comparison to Survivor because I was fed and I was sleeping in a bed every night, but still very fierce competition, as you know, having
Mhm.
seen the show.
Yes. And so as a, competitor, somebody who has done so many challenges, but also with this athletic background, was that the key to your success on jet lag?
I think to prepare for jet lag, you have to have a life experience of experiences behind you, physical, mental, emotional. It's the only way that you can really succeed at that game, and you have to be very adept at Google Maps.
Yeah. Um, do you have any other Survivor hot takes that maybe people would be interested in hearing?
A Survivor hot take. Gosh, I feel like this fandom is so big. I don't know if anything I'm going to say is new or interesting. A hot take. this is not, I don't think this is a hot take. It's an opinion I have.
Mhm.
And I know this has been discussed immensely online, but I wish the Blood Moon had been one tribal with 3 votes in a row.
One
Mm.
tribal with 3 votes in a row. So I bet that we get or it's 15 people there, and then we have 1 vote, and then we do it now the tribe has spoken, now we do the same thing with 14 people.
Potentially. And I think that
Yeah.
has problems too. I think that has problems in and of itself. Here's a crazy idea. Here's a very bad idea. Everyone's going to eat this up, but bad idea. I don't even know if like this would have been fair. Imagine they vote as a group of 15, the person leaves, and Jeff turns around and says, "It's time to vote again." Complete
Mhm.
surprise to everybody. And then they
Okay.
all have to vote again with like 0 notice. That would have been exciting. I think
Yeah.
like the way it was done currently, again, maybe from a production perspective is interesting and solves some issues versus so many people voting 3 times. But I think that the split tribal felt more like a tribe swap and sort of just didn't really give like Genevieve a need to actually fight for a position to come back.
Yeah, a lot of people did not love it. They just felt like that, okay, these people got unlucky more so than they got outplayed, and that's kind of a bummer for these people that you waited years and years for them to come back, and then it's sort of like, "Oh, well, you drew an unlucky rock today, so you're out."
Yeah. Yeah, especially with a player like Genevieve who had 2 Billie Eilish boomerang idols as an opportunity.
Found, yes, but no idols to show for it. Okay, Michelle, anything else you want the Survivor fans to know about what you're up to?
First of all, thank you so much for having me. Not just Rob,
Yeah.
but also the Rob Has a Podcast community. I'm so grateful to be here. I'm grateful to be a fan of Survivor. You can check me out on YouTube at Michelle Khare. And if you're a voter for the Emmys, vote for us for Outstanding Hosted Nonfiction.
For your consideration to all
Yes.
of the Emmy voters out there,
Yes.
please, have some, the consideration for all of Michelle's
Yes.
work. We
Consider it.
appreciate it.
Consider it.
Yeah. How about this? We make it a challenge for the Emmy
Yeah.
voters
hmm I'm
to
going to
come through.
challenge
Do what's
you.
right. Do what's right, Emmy voters. But no, Michelle, I really appreciate you making time to come on and talk about Survivor and everything that you have going on because I know that you've are incredibly busy and you're doing so many cool things, and it really does mean a lot that you came on to talk some Survivor with us here during Survivor 50.
Yeah, likewise, Rob. Thank you for having me on such a historic season. I'm so excited to see how it goes. And it's just great to meet you, Rob, and hear from you as someone who is a student and fan of the game.
Yeah, thank you so much and appreciate you. And I'm gonna you listen, my kids are watching so much YouTube. I'm gonna turn them on to Challenge Accepted now.
Amazing. And then when they're old enough, they can vote for the Emmys too.
Well, we'll see. We'll see if that's where life
I'm
takes them
kidding.
to being Emmy voters. But thank you so much. Thanks everybody for checking out this video. Of course, we are going to have full coverage of the next Survivor episode kicking off Wednesday night with Survivor Know It Alls after the episode. Michelle, thank you so much. Be sure to check out what's going on. A 3-part episode where Michelle is going to be going across 7 continents coming up this
Yeah.
Saturday. So be sure to check that out. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Bye. This is RHAP. We know reality TV.